from wherever you are. Feel the power. Power hits all day, every day.
Monday, at home, Tuesday, in the car, Wednesday, or at work, and on Thursday and Friday and Saturday.
Good music lives here.
Listen to Power and Politics on Power FM.
I don't need permission from you or anybody to come into Japan. It's my country. It's my time. You've detained me here for almost 2 hours now. Let me go. All I ever wanted to do was to serve my country to the best of my abilities. I would therefore like to congratulate my brother, the President-elect, His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, for becoming the 7th Republican President.
This victory is not mine, but for all the citizens of our great country, especially the youth who turned out to vote in great numbers with great energy.
We are fully aware that there are various people who stood by the President-elect during his political journey, and whom the President-elect may want to reward with different positions, despite such people not being competent for those positions. Our appeal is that the President-elect should desist from any such temptations.
Power and Politics on Wednesdays from 10 hours on Power 91.3 FM Lusaka, 87.9 FM Kabwe, and 102.4 FM Livingston.
A very good morning. My name is Patrick Chifuambo, your host today on Power and Politics on Power FM Lusaka, Power FM Kabwe, and Power FM Livingston, as well as live on our social media platforms as Power FM Zambia, Power FM Kabwe, and Power FM Livingston, as well as Power News Network and around the globe via TuneIn. Our guest this morning, Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, who's a marketer, business administrator, media and communication strategist, as well as social economist and consultant. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, listeners.
Our focus today is the hot topic, of course, which is the removal of fuel and electricity subsidies and what that means in our political and economic landscape. First things first, Mr. Chisanga, to begin with, kindly give us some context, some historical context, if you will, on when the electricity and fuel subsidies were first introduced and which administration first considered removing them due to budgetary constraints.
Well, if you look at to give you the total economic landscape of what has been happening, in the economic structure of this nation, you may be privy to know that Zambia's sort of plan in terms of economic architecture has been made in such a way that we have been moving from the issues of bilateral agreement with some multilateral arrangement like the IMF and a few others, and obviously we are coming from a background where we were a capitalist sort of state at some point during the UNEP time. And it's from that basis that maybe I would put a lot of weight on this. The time of UNEP, we had an issue where there were a lot of subsidies in some way, where we were getting some of the items, based on the government support programs. Like we talk of schools, we talk of provision for food, provision for housing, a lot of different aspects in that sense. So that in itself had a strength, and that's how UNEP has made its political forte in such a way. And coming back now to the issue of how we have developed over time, when you look at 1991 ELA, we had Dr. Chiluba, who came in power, and also looking at the background where things were not working very well, we had to remove some of these subsidies, and we went a capitalist way. Yeah, so it's from that background that we have built up ourselves to this level. If you are to ask how these things have actually worked out over time, of course, it's not everything that was moved from there. Some components were left out, like we talk of issues to do with fuel subsidies as being there for some time.
Electricity
also has not operated actually at a peak level in terms of how things should have worked. So it's a compendium of many cases, I would put it to say. So what I would say is that with the subsidies also as different other categories, of which 2003 or 2013 somewhere there, we also introduced another form of subsidies which came in the form of agriculture. I'm sure you are aware of the FISIPU
program.
And by the way, maybe just to digress a bit, FISIPU started actually in Kalomo as the first pilot project area, and it has now spread all over. Now, coming back to fuel as well as electricity and fuel has been with us for some time. Of course, the government of our late president, Dr. Levi Mwanawasa, also came in with a different touch in terms of how he touched on the social sector, because basically the subsidies have been there just to support the social programs in some way, and that's how we have seen it, being sustained up to date. And now we are thinking to say, look, the subsidies have been a burden on the treasury. Obviously, when you look at even just the current scenario of our current budget, which is running up to this month, has been having heavily, which has actually even gone about slightly above 20% in terms of budget allocation for some of the expenditures. Yes.
So when was it? When was it that an administration considered removing subsidies? Was it under the SATA administration, if I'm not mistaken, going back to 2011?
Well, I will tell you what has been...
under fuel and electricity, to be specific.
Well, yes, I would say the issue is that this subsidies aspect in terms of fuel as well as electricity has been a hot talk. And it has been an issue where each and every time you happen to have a different aspect in terms of how people have perceived it. Yes, so obviously, when you look at even just the time when there was Dr. Mwanawasa, we basically faced this discussion as well, but it couldn't, actualize in some real sense of action. Obviously, we were in a... we've been learning some of these things in a perspective or prospective sort of sense, but this is when we are now seeing it to be taken this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would you then describe Zambia's economic roadmap in the last 10 years and where it ought to be going?
The last 10 years has been full of policy inconsistency to begin with, and of course we have been going downward in terms of our GDP ratios when it comes to the levels of performance economically. We have a problem where these policy inconsistencies have been so much heavily in the main base of our economy, which is actually mining. You may be also privy to know that since 2008 we've been changing the mining tax regime, and up to date we can count it to say we have done 15 times in terms of changing it, and that is not sustainable. It's not something that would put it to say that it's an healthy move that we have conditioned ourselves. Then when you look at the overall performance of the economy, I think we've not done so much well in terms of attracting foreign direct investment, and also we haven't done so well in terms of trying to put good numbers in terms of employment levels. So that also has been a very bad shape altogether. If you look at the comparative metric here, we are growing the population, and we are slowing down the economic activities. So that does not match, and it's something that is very much worrying. I should put it. So I think looking at the overall compendium of cases here, it's a issue to do with certain political will. If I may also maybe put it in this way, I think even just the external factors have also been playing a card on this. I should have put it to say that the period 2015-2016 was very bad, even on the global scale. So also that is one of the things that has actually, shaped up in that. Of course, we have been very susceptible to some of the external factors. And even when you look at the total debt stock that we have now so far accumulated, that also speaks in a different direction, because obviously when you look at things like that, it has derailed some of our progress. Look, for example, one typical key sector which has been affected, Zambia is an import-driven economy, and mostly we have a situation where if our performance on the forex market is not doing very well, then we spark inflation from there. And usually what normally happens that the inflation in Zambia has been always rooted from exchange market. And because we have also got a big profile of a debt portfolio, which has actually no counterbalance on the good effect that should have been accumulated from the exchange rate. So that has also been one of the issues that we are also trying to check to see how best we can harmonize some of these issues. Then also, even the issue now to do with the mine itself, apart from the tax aspect of the mine, we have also administrative and productive or management issues, which are also key factors which have underplayed the goodwill that we should have actually underscore. If you look at the current issue, which has been standing for some time now, the issue to do with KCM, issues to do with Mopani, these two are quite sensitive, because some of the things are right in the court of law. So the basis is that at a point where we have a super cycle in terms of copper doing very well on the market, like currently, we should have harmonized some of these issues and ensuring that we have a proper roadmap for us to actually gravitate a good economic benefit from there. So those are the issues that also we have actually seen within the last 10 years. And now on the political side also, it has been a difficult situation, because the economy on the fiscal players has been running on speculative. And that has also been a very difficult situation. If you look at maybe 2017, 2018, 2019, we had a hot debate regarding the sales tax and all those things. That in itself took about almost close to a year debating, and some of the economic players or agents in the market could not play their law. That in itself also derailed some of the progress that we could have recorded. So there are quite a number of colors that we could take, which I would say would have worked perfectly as well.
In a nutshell, would you say the economic activities that you've just described in the last 10 years were negative or positive?
It's a combination of both. The composition sort of good thing are there, as well as the bad thing. But we had opportunities to actually score good marks.
And we did not take.
We did not take good opportunities for us to take a good roadmap in terms of trying to advance our potentialities.
Okay, yeah. We'll come back on some of the issues that you touched on specifically to do with the mines. But I want to fast forward real quickly. There's an agreement in principle with the IMF pending board approval. Do you think government has explained in enough details the terms and conditionalities of this deal and why it is necessary at this country's juncture?
Okay, let me just start with the necessity of this pack for the IMF bailout. If you may also come along with me, we had a situation where our budget performance has been very poor. We've the situation where whenever we put up a budgetary allocation, or we're running a fiscus, what has been happening in this case that we accrue some deficits on our budget. We go beyond our allocations. Like, I can give you a typical example of this year. This year, the expenditure for most of the government goods, works, and services were programmed to actually to have landed at 89.5 or thereabout billion, and it is from this background that we have seen now that the budget went beyond 25%. Against the allocated figure or margin. We are now talking of 112 billion against the 89. So it's that, sort of glimpse sort of image that we have actually been looking at, trying to see how best can we harmonize some of these issues. Of course, because of this overlap of 25%, the economy has not been doing very well. The money is being spent in subsidies, is being spent in all sorts of things. Subsidies, in this case, feasible, of course, in one or the other. Once we get to have a proper bumper harvest, we actually, counterbalance some of the effect that we could actually see from there. But when you look at the component of fuel and the component of maybe, say, electricity, we had a situation where ZESCO and a few other, energy players, they're not doing very well. If you look at the aspect of unit cost for what ZESCO is giving us, looking at the cost of study, it's not something that is sustainable. That's more reason why it has gone to this level. And not only that, also, ZESCO has not been able to service some of the suppliers. So that also has put burden on the government, because what they did, actually, they went into a situation where they contracted some of the things based on the government as a guarantor. So those are the aspects as well which are also trying to look at. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that the economy has not been balancing up. It has been overheating the negative. So for us to actually cool the effect, we needed the IMF. And how we needed the IMF is to come in as a cooling agent. In this case, what has been also taking shape is that we have found a situation where the last 10 years, we went beyond the bottom in terms of contracting the loans. And worse off, we went more on the non-concessional loans, which are almost like commercial loans, where we are required to pay, like the Euro bonds, which are very toxic to the economic fundamentals. So, like now, as we speak, we have also been defaulting. So, it's from that background. So instead of us to go with the level that things have been taking, we needed to have somebody who can come in the economy to actually cool everyone, cool the creditors, where we talk to them level to level to say, look, we are doing this and we are going to take things in this way. At least that brings normality in all the sense. Yeah.
Well, certain sectors are saying, why the IMF? We dealt with them in the 90s, early 2000s. Why bringing the IMF, who, by the way, are going to impose conditionalities that will make us suffer?
You see, we are not taking it to say the IMF is totally bad. The IMF of yesterday and the IMF of today, they could be different, and that I can assure you, because the bottom line here is that we are looking at a different aspect in terms of economic spectrum today. You may be able to know that we have tried either bilateral or multilateral arrangement in terms of trying to balance up things because of the non-concessional loans. For the past 5 years, we had a very poor balance of payment on our reserves, and also in the last 3 years, we have never taken a very sound FDI or foreign direct investment into the country. And that's the reason why we are even now recording negative. Worse off, we have even COVID-19, which has actually slapped us. So it's from that basis that we need now somebody who can come and cool all these pressures that we are having, so that we start going a different direction. And by the way, all these non-concession loans that we have actually been contracting, they have got short span in terms of repayment. But the IMF is giving us a leeway to say, look, we can give even the maximum of 30 years to pay. So I'm sure it's from that background. If you're building a house, I'm sure you cannot go to a bank, you cannot go to a Shylock when there is a bank. A Shylock is different, with a bank. So I would say in this simple way, the Eurobond and the non-concession loans that we got from China and all that can be classified as Shylock. Then IMF is coming as a bank, and I'm sure you see the conditions of the bank. You are able to negotiate, you're able to do all sort of things, and they'll give you good terms. Yes, they do not support some of the social sectors that we have actually been overburdened our national treasury.
Such as subsidies.
Yes, but it's not everything that they flow away. Right now, as we speak, the IMF has even given us 1.4 billion, which came on the 23rd of August to just cushion on our balance of payment.
The SDR.
Yes. So we are now talking of them coming now to give us 1.3 billion, which will take 3 years for us to access it. And that's a situation we are talking of, where they're trying now to bring the issue of normality.
Okay, so but coming back to my initial question, did government explain enough, in your view, what some of the terms and conditionalities are? Because we had a press briefing a few weeks ago,
yes,
but we do not yet know the details of what this package will entail if it's approved by the IMF board.
Well, we know that it has just lit at a staff level agreement, and it's yet to progress. Of course, there are a lot of issues that are still taking shape, but one of the dignifying factor here is that we are heading in the right direction with the discussions. I may be able to tell you that, of course, the government has not played a good communication strategy in terms of trying to put the information across. But that is what we can recommend for them to do. Okay, of course, we have seen that the composition of what's going to happen, already we have seen that they have been scrapping off of fuel subsidies, which is actually something that has got a lot of negative feelings here, which the government should have done quite a number of factors to put into this. And also, we are yet to see how we are going to work it out with electricity, which is actually a pipelined sort of plan. Of course, we've seen also the plans that they are bringing on the table of trying to employ some people to come into health sector as well as education. For the 2,000 people, it's quite a good number. Of course, we hope that this can be sustained with the way the economy can perform. Once we have a well-functioning economy, I'm sure we are able to even come back to say, let's start subsidizing again.
Okay, so let me take you back to the issue of removal of subsidies. So the fact that this is taking effect, do you think it's something that was imposed on us, as people are alleging that it's the IMF said you have to remove the fuel and electricity subsidies, or is it something that basically we couldn't afford? There was no either or whether.
Okay, the bottom line, as I did indicate, it's coming from the aspect of the budget structure. Our fiscus has been landing in a very worrying state. We've had the situation where our fiscal deficit has been going wider. And it's that concept which has actually come. Even ourselves, we need it actually, even if the IMF was to tell us. But what I would say here is that, yes, IMF will come in with a technical support to ensure that we land now the budget properly. So that's the reason why we are going this route as well. But it is not something that I would say has been imposed. It's because of what has been happening in the budget cycle.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've been spending 107 million approximately on fuel and electricity subsidies. Sure. We have a debt of close to 500, if not 504. Some of the figures that are flying around, 504 million United States dollars that was accumulated in the recent past. So the question is, if we stop paying subsidies come next month, how long is it going to take us to dismantle the 500 million before that money can be channeled to other sectors, as we're being told. Because we're being told that the money will not go to pay subsidies, it will go to pay for other social amenities. So is there a waiting period as well until this debt is dismantled so that we can start seeing this 100 million now being channeled to education, health, and whatnot?
Okay, well, what's happening right in this moment that there's been aggressive talks regarding the national debt portfolio, and I am privy to know that by June 2022 we should be able to come to a certain conclusion. The minister has actually shown a political will, as well as the president himself. Obviously, because him being the technical president, we are looking at it in a different way. Yes, we have accumulation of subsidies in terms of fuel procurement, which actually also would have required that we could do some bit of auditing why some of these things have happened in this way. Obviously, we know that the composition of that outstanding amount has two parts. There is a part where it's a direct cost, and the part where it is just government losses in terms of, in terms of tax income. So what I would say is that yes, we have a better platform where we are able to see that some of this will be harmonized. Once we see, of course, the money that was supposed to be put into fuel or whatever it is taken into other sectors of the economy. Like if you look at the aspect of pensioners, for some time pensioners haven't been getting the money. So now imagine you are subsidizing in this case consumption, which the economy is not doing very well. It's not balancing up to make things work. There's been a subsidies on fuel. Then the pensioners are facing hard time. And, with that, it has been a painful situation with a certain sector of a certain section of people. You see, others have even died. Not only that, also, even the other component of trying to imagine that money which has been also spending on other things. They could have as well maybe given to few pensioners who could actually lubricate the economy in some way. Because obviously some people have the businesses lining up and down here and there, and things will work out from there. So what I would say in a nutshell is that, yes, the removal of subsidies, it's something that is a welcome idea to some people who understand certain concept that has been, surrounding the budget function. It is something that has also, you see, you cannot survive where you are cooling yourself on people, then you are accumulating debts. Right now, without these loans that we haven't been paying, we have accumulated as well about $600+ million in interest. And
without the principal.
Without a principal. So you see from that basis. So imagine the money which we have been paying for fuel, we take it to our loans. So those are the issues that are actually in the internal system of what has been happening in the budget.
And still sticking on figures, some of the figures that have been flying around, some of our previous guests, and also what's pertaining in the public domain, is that if you want to look at it, because I think you referred to one phrase which is critical, say, for those who understand. I think the issue here is that me sitting on this side and many others out there do not understand the benefits of the supposed benefits of removing the subsidies. But coming back to the figure aspect is that the figures that have been flying around is $26 million is actually what you and I have been enjoying as the supposed subsidy out of the 104 million paid per month. So is it correct that the 80+ million is being enjoyed by certain industries and companies?
Well,
because those are the numbers that are flying around to say, look, 80% of the subsidies, by the way, were being enjoyed by certain industries, not you and I, because we can count how many people own vehicles or how many people use public transport. But if you calculate it, it's 26 million out of 100 million plus. in a month?
Well, I may not be able to agree fully 100% on such ascensions because you see, the issue that whether we have got a fraction of 26 versus the other, it actually boiled down to the aspect of the total economic performance. If there is an increment in fuel, it affects the whole scales of population. Obviously, when for example, if you are coming from home, you use a bus which they have hiked. If you are also buying mini meal, you find that the cost of mini meal has gone up. If you are whatever you are buying, there is a fuel component which has actually been passed on. So it's not basically the issue to do with a certain section of people. Obviously, some people, yes, they could be benefiting because of their scale of value. But on the bottom line here is that it affects the total economy. Because once there is an increment in the fuel cost, meaning that even the cost of living goes up, it affects the whole total aggregate demand. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Okay, we'll take a short break. When we come back, I want us to touch a bit on the 2022 budget, and of course, we'll talk more about the fuel subsidies. We'll be right back.
Listen to Power and Politics on Power FM.
You cannot say that you make a better government, that you are an alternative government, when you are failing to put on the table any alternative solutions. Put on the table some alternative solutions.
Emina kwa bantu chintu wingi wa community pali problem ya kusitisha land. Hii land twalwisha kufuma kali sana. Kufuma mtu mu 2006 kufika na lero po twaba pano. So bakanso balisa tupele land bafunyapo walipo bamustudy allocate same size ya land ino bampera kumbi ero ife twashala pano. So mukushita twadawati baishita subdivide twalishite land nomba twasangati yaba piwe yakwe bati land turefu abatu wese sheko ba government.
We've noticed the rising of child marriages in Zambia has been so high, with a 42% worldwide of girls being married off at an early age before the age of 19. And Children's Fair Society can't work alone in terms of ending of early child marriages. Empower the girls, but also empower the parents, because it's the highest cost of child marriages is poverty. So you'd find parents are poor, they can't afford to take a child to school. So we want to make it easy for everyone to be in school and empower the parents so that they shouldn't take the next generation into child marriages.
Power and Politics on Wednesdays from 10 hours on Power 91.3 FM Lusaka, 87.9 FM Kabwe, and 102.4 FM Livingston.
The views expressed on this program are not in any way the views of Power FM or the presenter.
Well, welcome back. A very good morning to you in Kabwe, Livingston, as well in Lusaka. You're live on Power FM Lusaka 91.3, Power FM Kabwe 87.9, and Power FM Livingston 102.4. Our guest this morning, Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, who's a marketer, business administrator, media and communication strategist, as well as social economist and consultant. We are focusing on the removal of fuel and electricity subsidies in our current political and economic landscape. Let's get to the budget, Mr. Chisanga. It's been described by some as transformational in view of tax measures being proposed to take effect January 1st of 2022, increased allocation to CDF, mass recruitment of teachers and medical officers. Do you think this budget is transformational in light of the economic challenges that you alluded to earlier?
Yes, obviously I would say yes. It has been a very ambitious budget, looking at where we want to take ourselves, and also considering what we have actually been going through for some time. You may be able to know that if you look at certain components like the CDF that you have mentioned, it's a light thing to do. Bringing the project-led growth project at grassroots level in most of the constituencies. That is one of the things that we would actually, say. I think it has been a very good formulative plan for that, because obviously when we increase the value of activities within the local communities, we should be able to see how best this can actually take into a national productive sense. Then when we look at the other component of tax, of which we know that we have a situation where we have got the mine going for lower tax which is also something that is trying to be a very good formulative policy on that as well. But we just need to know that we just need to show that we do not go beyond certain ratios or levels in terms of negotiation, because right now the government and mining stakeholders are talking over it. Yeah, so by and large, what I would say that yes, if we put our political will to it, we should be able to see how best we can work out a number of things that have actually also been put through there. Though, on the contrary, I think we haven't done quite enough in terms of factoring in the aspect of sinking fund, which should have actually also been a key factor on this. Because obviously we've seen that we are coming from the point where we have been failing the debt obligation. So it's from that background that you should be able to see that we could have put that component to cushion the effect.
So when you allude to sinking fund, maybe for some of us who don't understand, what is that? Because I last heard that phrase a few years back.
Okay,
that's when we were getting the Eurobonds. I think there was mention of sinking fund.
Maybe just to put it in a simplicity sense, sinking fund, it's a fund that help to serve effects that could come as a result of, maybe say you have got an emergency, like, or you are planning to be making commitment at certain intervals. For example, if you've got debt payment every 3-4 months, you've got that as something that you'll be flowing into some resources, financial resources, for you to come and redeem and make good of certain issues that could be facing.
So back to the issue of the mines, as you alluded to. Jim and Jack out there say, well, why are you removing or reducing the mineral royalty tax for mines? And yet you are removing the subsidy on my fuel and electricity. Why are you giving benefits to the mines and removing my benefits?
You see, if you look at it, these two factors, the mines right now, we have reached a point where there is a good economic boom. In terms of projection, even when you look at the way
prices.
Yes, the way copper has been performing, even just overall this year and probably the last year as well, on account of reduced supplies on the market, and also just on the perspective of manufacturing of cars. So that actually brings in a good mix. So you see, the bottom line, that we want to stabilize the mining industry so that it can start performing. Over time, mining has been, badly shaped. And as I mentioned earlier on, the mine has changed about 15 times tax regime, which is not very healthy. And it is our basis in terms of the economic structure. When you look at the other side, of course, we cannot be subsidizing in a way that we are even now failing to pay the loans. Right this moment as we are speaking, if we do not service some of the loans, we are going the Zimbabwean way. Yeah.
Which is, by the way, the Zimbabwean way is which way?
I'm sure you know what has been happening.
No, for the benefit of our listeners, the Zimbabwean way. What is happening? What's the worst case scenario? If we say we are going to maintain the subsidies, yet we have no money to pay for them, and then we're borrowing to pay for the subsidies. What's the worst case scenario that
the worst case scenario here is that we'll find ourselves where our debt portfolio ballooned, and also we'll find ourselves, failing into work out on an international scale in terms of importation, in terms of one element which will be affected there is the exchange rate, the importation costs. So it will be a lot of composition that will actually come into this and underplay. And if anything, we'll fail to record good productive issues. Maybe let me just give you a typical example that could help. Once we work on a very robust economic plan or platform, it will be imperative for you to even build your children the houses, and or even just making something for them for posterity case. But if we remain struggling, it means we are transferring the suffering even to the next generation. Yeah, so it will be imperative to say that it's better we look at a solution now to see how best can we endure a certain hardship for us to actually take us to a different platform altogether.
Well, which brings me to my next question. Could this removal of subsidies, could it be delayed, as certain people seem to suggest, to say, in terms of preparing the mindset, in terms of preparing you and I's wallet? Could it be delayed maybe to the next quarter so that there's enough communication explained on the pros and the cons of why the removal is necessary, why the IMF package or deal is necessary?
For me, the issue of fuel, again, also, it has got a different take altogether. For the past 2 years, Zambia has not increased fuel. And I don't think any business person would love to go that route where they have taken the goods at a certain level despite having a different composite of cost factors, and you remain sustainable. Because obviously, when you even look at a concept to say, are we even able to to break even with the consistency of 2 years without making any changes, any administrative changes in terms of cost? So that's a factor. So I think it's about time that we need to have market reflective costs.
Okay.
Yes.
There was in the build-up to our general elections held, a few months ago. There were spreadsheets that were being shared to say the cost of fuel could be brought down by as much as 5 kwacha. And you've alluded to the fact that there's not been a pump increment for the last 2 years.
Sure.
And now we're at a situation where the pump price has gone up by as much as, I think, 4 kwacha. So people are asking what happened to the promise that was made for the pump price to go down by 5 kwacha.
You see, I'll tell you one thing, and this is a humanistic view. Yes, during the time when most of the people are doing politics, campaigning to have opportunities to take themselves into public office, there are a lot of things that are taken into consideration. But when you look at the reality on the ground, I think it differs as well. Of course, I'm not underplaying to say this could have been the case. But obviously, whoever has actually been trying to assess how the economy has been doing, I think I would say the issue has been steadily on how we have managed the economy. As I mentioned earlier on, we had some good scores that we could have actually, engaged into. Remember last year when COVID had hit into Africa and across the whole entire world, fuel was leaving as low as almost close to about $10, $5. You see, those are the things that we could have triggered in and took advantage, but we never thought of such. And obviously, also, we had some other issues. And probably there are also cases of legal agreement with the supply as well. And that's the reason why we are viewing the issue of what is happening. Maybe just to give you a nutshell, if there was a way the government and stakeholders within the fuel supply chain would have done a thorough investigation, would have found where the economic leakages are in terms of cost or whatever you can put it to say corruption. But because there are legal instruments binding some of these issues, that's the reason why it's even difficult for us to dismantle or unbundle some of these cases. But I'm sure as we go by the physical learning of next year, we should be able to see how certain things can actually work out.
Okay.
Yes.
Back to the budget. Zambia is borrowing a great deal to support this 170 billion kwacha budget for next year. Why is it that we're borrowing almost half of what we accumulated in terms of external debt in the last 10 years in literally 1 year?
You see, what we got in last 10 years, as I hinted to you, was basically the non-concession loans.
The Eurobonds primarily. Yes. And bilateral.
Yes, so what we're trying to do now, we're trying to do some replacement. The money that we're getting, large component of it is not going to be used for any consumption or productive or whatever we can put in the case, it's going to service the required of some other loans that we are learning. As you may be able to know, I mentioned of the 5 years which we never had the substantial balance of payment in terms of reserves. Now that we have got a reserve which has got 4 months import cover, that gives a good shape, meaning that we're going to stabilize our FX market, which is a foreign market, foreign exchange market. If the foreign market is disturbed, it affects our cost of goods. That's where, as I mentioned, I want to re-emphasize this. Zambia's inflation, the biggest culprit comes from exchange rate. And once we disturb the exchange rate, we disturb all the economic fundamentals or even the aggregate demand in the economy. So once we have a situation where we sustain and maintain the kwacha, by the way, before I go very far, the budget for next year is projected to land under 19 kwacha. So if our forex exchange goes beyond 19 kwacha, then we are going to have some deficit as well. So those are the things that we're trying to work out, trying to see how best can we anchor this so that the budget can function very well, the economy can also do some good performance. So it's that act of balance that we're trying to see. And even when you look at the other fundamentals, when you look at the budget which we are contracting from the IMF, I mean the portion that we are contracting from IMF, as indicated, it's coming to just put off the pressure that we have been facing now. So once we get to have the non-concessional loans, taken away from our neck, then we should be able to see how certain things can start cooling down. Yeah. So
what you're saying, in fact, is that the 1.4, for instance, that we will get from the IMF is going to pay off some of the Eurobond payments.
Exactly.
So it's not money that will necessarily come into the economy.
Exactly. It will eat into our treasury. It will do one or two things,
but it will be going out.
large part of it to go out. It will be going out. But again, also in the process of how things are going to work out, we are going to stimulate the economic activities by, of course, that's the reason why there is tax rebates in some sectors, and also even the corporate tax, being increased from 5% to 10%. So those are the aims to see how best we can stimulate the economic fundamentals. Once we have a well-oiled, functioned economy, we should be able to see how some of these things can come to normality.
And back to the mines, there's also a suggestion that the reason why the mineral royalty tax has been reduced is to allow production to be ramped up, so that over the next 3, 5, 10 years, revenues can be increased. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because you see, we have used this formula before. If you look at 2014, when we had the global supply slump, we had a situation where the economy was not performing as it should. Obviously, the external factors were underplaying the system, and the economic part of it had a very different shape. It was disfigured. So we need to ramp up production from the mining. And by the way, mining being the biggest economy in our domestic setup. So we needed to actually ensure that there is that productive scale, high productive scale, so that we are able to counterbalance the effects.
One more issue on the mines before we take a quick break. There's been a suggestion that perhaps we need to have a phased approach in the removal of subsidies. In other words, maybe we can start with the bigger players, for instance, the mines that will be immediately affected with removal of subsidy, whether electricity or fuel.
You see, the problem that is there is that, yes, that balance of approach has been employed. Obviously, when you look at the landing of the budget, just I think a week or two from now, the budget start landing. And by the time it is December, it's supposed to go. So you can imagine if we try to do sort of like speculative approach, it will not yield a good balance of it will not bring the wheel of balance in one way. So what we need to do is that we need to from the word go to see how best can we work out. We knew that the aspect of fuel as being one of the weakest point. Obviously, the increment of 4 kwacha, it's something that's substantial, yes, to the overall population, but it is something that we can manage in one way or the other. So the mining, if it's performing very well, we could have also seen how things could have actually also worked out. If you see also the aspect of the mining, as I hinted to you, we have not been doing very well in terms of administration, in terms of production. If anything, it just may be 1 or 2 mines which are even consistently paying ZLI.
Well, we'll take a short break, Mr. Sanga. When we come back, we'll touch on the issue of the kwacha and the foreign exchange, and obviously on the anticipated price hikes in commodities. We'll be right back. And also, we'll open up the phone lines. If you have a contribution or question for Mr. Sanga, you can come through. The number is 0955 997 997 or 0211 236 997.
Listen to Power and Politics on Power FM.
We have agreed with the police command that there shall be no police roadblocks anywhere. We condemn it in the strongest way possible, but I would also like to say this, that our colleagues politicized a lot of these civil service officers. We are urging them, please be civil and not political, because if you continue to be political, we may not always restrain our youth from coming to close your offices and hunt you out. We know you.
We are a democratic country. The actions by police is not by their own making. The police itself, we have professionals. We have doctors in the police. We have trained policemen in this country, but we know where the bad hand is coming from.
Power and Politics on Wednesdays from 10 hours on Power 91.3 FM Lusaka, 87.9 FM Kabwe, and 102.4 FM Livingston.
The views expressed on this program are not in any way the views of Power FM or the presenter.
A very good morning. My name is Patrick Chifwambwa. We are live today on Power on Politics with our guest, Mr. Kelvin Chisanga. Also live, by the way, on Power FM Lusaka, Power FM Kabwe, and Power FM Livingston, as well as on our social media platforms as Power FM Zambia, Power FM Kabwe, and Power FM Livingston, as well as Power News Network. We are looking at the removal of fuel and electricity subsidies in our current political and economic landscape. If you do have a contribution, you can come through 0955 997 997. That is the line that will get you through our studio here in Lusaka. Mr. Sanga, the pump price has gone up, I think, effective a few days ago, to 48 hours ago, I think, by 3 or 4 kwacha. We anticipate commodity prices will go up. We are told that there's measures in place to mitigate some of these price rises. How does that happen? How does that work? How does that work? How does that work for me?
Well, it's a issue where obviously we know that the energy sector has got a spillover effect once there is a price growth, and looking at the concept there, we basically anticipate that to happen actually, but the issue that we could have taken a modest way of trying to push it in a gradual process. Obviously, the bottom line that, as I hinted, it's an aspect also of trying to be bold and see where we can take the economy. The economy has been overeating. And it's not something that will be able to help us so much. The more we accumulate on debt repayment, the more we have effect on the exchange rate as well. So it's an act of balance, as I mentioned. What we need to do in this case is that we need to see how best can we push ourselves to just maybe even just see the government coming with a good communication plan to ensure that across the board, people are able to acclimatize to this issue.
You've mentioned communication. That word seems to be coming up a lot. Communication plan. Do you think government has an effective communication plan at the moment?
And I'm
asking you this as a communication expert.
See, I'm not attacking the government stakeholder, but from what I've seen, yes, the communication has been lacking. It's something that needs to be worked on, even just from the way this has come. I think it's something that requires a lot more emphasis, expect to ensure that the government chief spokesperson should be able to understand the deep matrix of what is happening around the economy, so that even when an opportunity comes, she's able to articulate clearly, very well, without having any doubts in the audience.
Moving on to the kwacha, it's been trading pretty well for some time now. What do you think could be some of the contributing factors to the appreciation of our local currency? On a lighter note, there was suggestions that by 14 hours after inauguration, it would appreciate by over 50% or so. Okay. But it's been trading fairly well.
Okay, let me maybe just to give you a share this year how the performance has actually been doing. We know that from beginning of this year, the kwacha was not in a very good shape. And if you look at even the other side, the inflation also was sparking with a lot of issues on its effect. So that act of balance was not working out very well. And that's a more reason why we would have landed ourselves, if there were not interventions in the market by the central bank, would have landed ourselves into a collapsed sort of economy. But obviously, there has been some interventions here and there. We saw how the kwacha went, slightly beyond 20 kwacha, and we even saw how also the inflation went slightly beyond 23%. So those were not good signs for us. And it would have been a very bad situation for us if we did not do some intervention, actually through the Bank of Zambia around June. And also the extent of fact that has been playing its card, which actually is quite an uncontrollable variable in this case, has been COVID. We saw how COVID during the June-July period, how we received some of these deaths and even the low economic patterns. So that in itself actually derailed some of the fundamentals. When the Bank of Zambia intervened, and also when we had elections, of course, Bank of Zambia came in to make a cooling effect of about $687.5 US to just cushion the pressure that was actually happening there. Of course, we saw how the kwacha also appreciated within a certain period of time, like 2 weeks to about 7.9 or somewhere there. And just around the election time, when we were also receiving the results, and just around that period, from first week of August up to somewhere mid of September, we had a very good electoral euphoria, which actually characterized with the portfolio investors, and we saw how the kwacha also appreciated with about 7.9%. So a lot of things have happened in the economic structure, and of course we've been now having a situation from the month end of September up to somewhere around first week of December. Mm-hmm. We've been having losses in the kwacha. Mm-hmm. But the moment we ignited the issue to do with IMF, we also saw some appreciation levels. And as we speak, the kwacha would have been about 18 kwacha 50 ngwe right now, but is at 16 kwacha 50, 16 kwacha 80 ngwe, that kind of thing. So you see, it is something that we need to work around and see how best we can trigger a good performance. The reason why it was losing every day from month end of September up to the first week of December, it's because there was a huge importer drive. Obviously, we know that when you look at the seasonal demands in the economy, being an imported-driven economy, people are buying things, Christmas things, and a lot of sort of things in that sense. And even just from the time when we had the COVID third wave, the business was very low. So it is this time that people now engaged into foreign purchases. That's the reason why we found ourselves in this. Yes.
And still speaking, still on the issue of the kwacha. Earlier, you mentioned the fact that this year's budget is projected or is planned around the basis that the kwacha will be about 19 kwacha to the dollar.
Sure.
So the fact that it's at 16, is that a good thing for the 2022 budget?
Well, yes, it is.
Or if it goes below 16 kwacha?
It is actually supposed to go below 16 if we work what we're trying to do. You see, it's also from the basis that we have the biggest chunk also, maybe I must mention, which also was making us to have a lot of effect in the forex exchange. It's actually fuel. Whenever there is an engagement to actually import some fuel, would buy dollar, would do this. And by the way, it also affects. So I'm sure, since one of the components which is quite big in the economy has been also scrapped off for now temporarily, I'm sure we can actually anchor the kwacha dollar relationship in a very good way.
And recently the Bank of Zambia lifted the monetary policy to 9% from 8.5% to try and contain inflation. That's still nearly triple the targeted rate. Do you think that move will produce the results that we hope for?
We may, but of course there are other concessions that one would take to say because of the way certain approach is coming through, like the issue of wage increase, that also may actually counterbalance on the inflation. Issues to do with if at all, of course they have taken a contractionary approach in terms of the monetary policy from the central bank, and also the fiscal side, which actually the government has taken a expansionary side of things. So you see, these two are mirrored in a different or opposite directions. So it's from that background we cannot use positive and positive to achieve certain things. We have to use positive and negative. So that's what is at play right now. We are trying to see can this negative and can this positive work together. So that's what we're trying to see our best, because if you look at the fiscal side of things, we've got even the CDF, which is going the community, meaning that there will be more money. So imagine if we have Bank of Zambia rate coming at 8%, meaning that we have more money, people contracting loans, and then we have more money also with people getting from the government through CDF. So that brings a very bad mix in terms of inflation. We cannot fight inflation like that. It will be difficult. Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. Maybe if I may, or maybe before we go, you say the fact that money will be available through CDF.
Yes.
And the monetary policy rate is now at 9%. So those two factors combined, do you think that will reduce the lending rates with the banks?
It will be reasonably.
If we, on the other hand, we're also encouraging youth to create cooperatives to be able to access CDFs. So if they're accessing that money and maybe some soft loans to the banks, will that reduce the lending rates at some point?
You say the Bank of Zambia pricing structure of using the monetary policy rate. It has also got a section, which in this case is a broader section with a bank. But again, also we've got other instruments that are also part of market instruments which could actually be used. Like you talk of the stimulus packages, they have got lower rates compared to the monetary policy rate, So there are quite another mixtures which are in the market. So the market is got financial diversity. So it's just from that background that we should be able to see how best can we work it out. Obviously, when you look at the stimulus package is still having some big good figures. If the financial players who seem to see the opportunity, they can actually go for it and ensure that they give loans at a relatively lower cost according to the monetary policy. According to the stimulus package conditionalities.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chisanga, as we wind down, unfortunately, we're running out of time. Just a quick one, though. So a number of these economic reforms that are being undertaken by this new administration are meant to put the country, as you alluded to, on a sound footing. How long do you anticipate these reforms will take before you and I start seeing tangible results in the physical and in the wallet?
You see, of course, it's projected that in the next 2 years from now, we should be able to see this economy gravitating into positive economic structure. I would say the basis here is that there will be a matter of sacrifice in some way. And obviously, it may not be able to be a good thing on a general principle by many people. But what I would say in a nutshell is that I think it just needs everyone's participation. We do not expect the politician to come and feed us. At least we have got a reduced political risk compared to the last few years that we have actually been exposed. Obviously, when you look at even just other component in the way that I'm trying to express this, it was difficult for one to actually get a piece of work from certain organization because there was a cartel. And now the economy has been made in such a way that it's well balanced, and anyone can make money according to their efforts. So it's something that one would say it's a good dividend. So I think given the circumstances that we are taking ourselves to hard work, it will actually pay off.
And what could be some of the major external or internal economic factors that might derail some of these reforms or government objectives?
Of course, the external, it's the issue to do with policy structure. Obviously, we know that there have been some changes in some of the ministries, like the Ministry of Small and Medium Scale. There is a Ministry of Commerce. So you see, the interlapping functions might not be able to be understood very well. So that also may take a bit of time, probably maybe say 2-3 months from now, for them to just now get settled. And even that's the other new ministries also. So you see, it's a combination of different aspects within the internal system where certain things taking a lot of the alignment. By the time they are aligning some of the ministry or some of the functions of the government, it would have eaten into maybe enough of the budget or financial year. So that also brings a different aspect altogether. So again, also it's an issue also to do with the external, to do with the COVID issues, the debt issues. Yeah, so all these are quite external factors that we cannot control right this moment. Even when it has affected people on the grassroots, like issues to do with subsidies removal, it is from that background that those are external factors that we cannot control. Yeah.
The fuel, the price of the barrel of oil, that is can affect our reforms, our objectives?
Yes, those are factors that are externally, inclined. So we cannot project or dictate some of those factors, even when it comes to certain policies at regional or global level. They also do affect in one way. So we basically have a different composite of factors at play.
Mr. Chisanga, it's been a pleasure having you on Power and Politics this morning.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
We certainly do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule in this festive season. Compliments of the season, by the way.
Thank you. Same to you.
It's been Power and Politics for today. We thank you for taking time to listen to us from Livingston as well as Kabwe, not forgetting Lusaka, and through our social media platforms. We will be taking a break for the festive season. We will catch you in 2022.
Listen to Power and Politics on Power FM.
He is a leading loser to be recorded in the Guinness Book of Records for attaining the most zeros. We ask him to take it easy. He would do better to reflect on his poor and short performance, where his greatest success was to be number one with zeros.
We are 5 months, 6 months to the general election. The country is stable. The mood is quiet. So I can assure you that the people of Zambia, they have already decided. They have no option The people of Zambia, they have no option.
Otherwise, life